Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to the Carolina Underground. We're coming to you live from the Replica Batcave with my partner in crime somewhere deep in the dark jungles of Sparkleberry.
Well, you know, with the rain we've been having, it is kind of like a jungle.
Well, I can
about 3
sympathize
feet
with
deep.
that because
Yeah.
I haven't been able to mow my yard in several weeks.
Well, but you know, the thing that kills me is there's something. I think the wire or the tube on my windshield washers is either gone bad or it's come unconnected. And so every time I put windshield washer fluid in there, it will stay in for a day or two and it's gone.
Oh.
And the problem is I've got one of those under panel things that has about 13 or 14 bolts holding it on. So it is an absolute pain in the posterior extremity to get up underneath there and take a look at it. So I have been procrastinating to a fare thee well about looking at it.
I believe I would too.
But the point of the matter is that it will, I'll go out and I'll get in the car and I'll drive somewhere, and boy, howdy, I mean, those clouds are just absolutely pregnant. I mean, they are ready to pop.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll
Well, I got lucky on Thursday because we came home from the office, and the whole time, I mean, it looked like it was going to be taking us somewhere over the rainbow. And then we got to the house and in before it actually started drizzling. So we got lucky.
But that's the thing. Okay. I could really use some rain on my windshield so that because it'll spit just enough where you turn on the wipers and it just streaks everything and you can't see nothing. And it will wait. It will wait and wait and wait until I pull in the dadgum driveway and get in the house before it starts raining.
It just don't want you to mess up your hair while you're walking from the car to the front door, baby.
It won't bother me. I don't walk to the front door. I go in the back door from the garage.
Oh,
But that's what
this week's been an eventful week and an eventful weekend so far.
I have intentionally not watched a lick of news since Thursday. But
we had the Microsoft and CrowdStrike decided they wasn't playing pretty.
Yep. And that was really funny because that all hit the fan about a half an hour after I turned my computer off, so I missed that.
Well, none of our customers were really affected, but one we come to find out in a roundabout way was because one of the things they use for published desktop apps at the mother organization was affected by it, and so they were having trouble connecting into something they needed to do. I did hear an interesting statistic about that, though. Microsoft, they're able to track it because, Windows checks in on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And they said that there were 8.5 million Windows machines, that were affected by that CrowdStrike update to Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
And they said in the grand scheme of things, that's not really that many machines because, according to their statistics, that's less than 1% of Windows machines worldwide.
Good Lord. But they're not a monopoly.
Well, I can't speak intelligently about that.
Well, I can speak intelligently about it because they write both the Apple operating system, the Macintosh operating system, and the Microsoft Windows operating system. And the only thing that really competes against them from the outside is Linux, and that's free.
Well, Linux isn't much of a competition because it's more of a half-baked science experiment to get done what you need to get done.
Well, I disagree. It doesn't have, I mean, honest to God, it's significantly more stable. Now you have to know what you're doing,
Right, that's
but
what I'm saying. For the average user, though,
oh
in
yeah,
order to get something that you can just double click on Windows
right.
or install on
Meaning,
Mac, they're not
right.
going to be able to do it.
Meaning the people that aren't smart enough to figure out how to fix something or
You know,
read.
them kind what's eating Tide Pods and stuff.
Yeah, all of them. Yep. And again, that's something that. So, all right. Well, back to politics. Dear God, we've got to talk more politics. Of course, Twitter or X is absolutely exploding with all of these. The demon rats, Democrats, whatever you want to call them, that are just apoplectic over the whole thing with Trump. And of course, they're talking about, nobody knows what the Heritage 2025 project is and what that's going to do to the country and and if you ask a Republican, they don't even know what the party platform is. Well, if you ask a Democrat, they don't know what the party
Well,
platform is either.
remember, on the Democrat side, you got to vote for it before you can find out what's in it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, again, since when has a
But I figured they
politician?
would be. I figured the Democrats would be celebrating this weekend because Joe Biden announced today he will not be seeking a second term.
Yeah, and I managed to miss that, but it forced, and I was trying so hard to ignore it, but it forced itself in. But again, the point of the matter is, since when has a politician ever actually, with the exception of Donald Trump in his term, actually done anything about the platform that they ran on, other than Donald Trump?
I would say the last time it probably happened was, I would say, probably Lyndon Johnson passing the civil rights thing because he ran on that because it was a leftover from the Kennedy administration.
Well, Reagan did too, I think, honestly,
To an
to
extent, I
an
think Trump
extent.
actually
No, Trump
fulfilled
really
more
did
of
it.
what he promised.
Oh, he absolutely did. I mean, he just knocked, he basically went down the list and
Hmm.
did every one of them that he could possibly do.
One at a
So,
time, baby, one at a time.
yeah, that's it. And so, again, but the thing again, when I was talking about these Twitter things, I watch these people and they obviously consider themselves to be very intelligent. Okay. But isn't the mark of intelligence actually being able to reevaluate and re-examine your beliefs in the face of overwhelming facts?
That is part of the learning process that you would think would be a hallmark of intelligence. Yes.
Well, and when I worked at the university, um, that was the thing that astounded me. Now, again, these were some absolutely brilliant minds, but they were so heavily mired in their own dogma that you couldn't have a conversation with them because they had the knowingness, so they
Well,
knew everything.
the problem with the knowingness though is, they're not reevaluating anything because they never thought of anything in the first place. They're just regurgitating what they've heard somebody else say.
Well, yeah, and so again, that's the same kind of thing as what happens with the Graham Hancock stories and whatnot. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming that there was a somehow technologically advanced enough ray to pick up and move 90-ton boulders. Now, I was talking to my brother about this not too long ago, and
Hmm.
apparently one of the new theories is that they made some form of concrete, that they used some form of concrete so they basically ground everything up into a powder and then put it in some form of mold and heated it up to dry it or something. But the thing of the matter is, if you look at Baalbek, they got that thing, the pregnant woman's stone, or the stone of the pregnant
Mm-hmm.
woman, or something like that, where they were quarrying that stone, and they stopped for some reason or another. And the thing is bigger than a railroad car, and it's
Oh,
solid
wow.
granite. And then you've got the temple in Baalbek that is has, they call them the Three Sisters, which are three stones quarried from the same place, which is over 100 miles away. The quarry is over 100 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same stone as that. And these things are like more than 90 tons. So
Wow.
we wouldn't be able to move them 100 miles today with modern technology. And yet, Stone Age people, knuckle dragging, you know, loincloth wearing, spear toting hunter gatherers one day just said, "Hey man, you reckon that we could cut a great big chunk of that mountain and carry it 100 miles and slap it over here for some reason?"
Well,
Anyway,
yeah, because they got spaceships.
well, there you go. So, I mean, I'd wear a loincloth.
I am a firm believer in ancient aliens.
Well, I don't know if it's ancient aliens or not. Okay. I just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a technologically advanced, maybe not the same way as we are technologically advanced, but they were advanced enough to be able to build these monuments out of rocks because they'd last forever. But at any
Well,
rate,
that is the
back to,
kind of thing, though. We are pygmies standing on the shoulders of giants, and we have successfully gotten dumber and dumber as the years have progressed.
well, but that's part of the plan, because the people in power don't want anybody smart enough to notice the power that they've got and are exercising for their own ends at the detriment of everybody else, which goes back to, but again, the point that I was making with the Graham Hancock stuff and that trip down that rabbit hole is that these professors absolutely refuse to acknowledge the mountains of evidence that show this stuff, and that the human race was not large. Well, maybe we were, but somebody was not just wandering around with spears and rocks chasing woolly
Hmm.
mammoths.
Well, yeah, most definitely.
Okay. And that race or whatever, and of course they talk about the giants, and the Nephilim in the Bible and all of that
Hmm.
stuff. And, I was sitting thinking about that, and I just happened to wonder, because if you listen to the stories that the Native American Indians told about the giants, the
Hmm.
redheaded giants, they claimed that they were cannibals, and the Native Americans hunted them down and killed them. And there was one of them where they were talking about that they had the legend was that they chased them into a cave, and they walled the cave up and set fire to it, burned them all, and killed them. And there's evidence
Then
of
they eat them.
somewhere, and there's somewhere out there in Arizona where they found evidence. I think it's Arizona. They found evidence of that having happened. But
Hmm.
you know, if you were, I sit and wonder, if you were a 12-foot tall cannibal, and one of the critters that you eat, I mean, if a handful of the critters that you normally eat were chasing you around with a lit match, I don't know that you'd run into a cave. I think you'd probably turn
Well, I
around and
guess it
whoop
would
them.
depend on how many of them it is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wonder, is whether or not there were just so many humans
Hmm.
running around, because the Maltese legends
Because the
claim,
humans in this instance, they was doing it like rabbits and just exploding.
well, and it's entirely possible. Now, so and that's what I was getting to is maybe human beings were just hunter gatherers, and whatever these giants were talking about is maybe these giants, maybe they weren't related directly to humans. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there are modern humans, and maybe there
Uh-huh.
were just so many, like you said, so many modern humans breeding all over the place and taking over the landscape that they were able to overwhelm them and kill them all, and we
Hmm.
therefore lost the knowledge because, like the Maltese. The giant myths all talk about the giants' tombs and that these megalithic structures were all built by giants. So,
Right,
but at any
right.
rate, that's a little bit more pleasant to talk about than Joe Biden and whether or not Kamala
Well,
Harris
now
or Hillary
Kamala,
Clinton.
believe me or not, she said she's going to work hard and earn the nomination.
Well,
And
you
I've,
know what?
and my reckoning, that's making a lot of whistles blow because that's how she got her job doing the other thing.
That's what I was just thinking. I don't know how she's going to be able to work hard enough to be able to make this a
But I
reality.
can say this: since Joe Biden dropped out, see, I didn't like Joe Biden and I didn't like Donald Trump, but I like Donald Trump a lot more than I like Kamala Harris.
Hmm.
So this has just got really interesting, really fast. But
Well,
I'm really surprised whether they're going to actually just give it to her, if they're going to have an open convention, which is something we haven't seen, I don't think, in our lifetimes. That in
here's
cognitive
my question.
memory,
How can they?
I don't think they
Because
can.
it's too late to get a new candidate's name on the ballot. The only names that can go on the ballot in all 50 states, legally, mind you, are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So they can stay with Kamala Harris and not break the law in all the states. But I don't anticipate that they're actually going to have a convention. They'll have some kind of a herky jerky.
Well, they have to have something soon because the convention doesn't take place until after the legal deadline in 2 or 3 states to even get them on the ballot in the first place.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're not going to have. They're not. I mean, by a convention, I mean, or they're not going to have a primary. I'm sorry, I should have said primary instead of
Well, their
convention.
convention doesn't take place till after the deadline in a lot of these states.
Right. So I don't expect they're going to have an actual primary and allow the actual population to vote on a successor to this. But back to the whole thing, and I mean, again, I'm not discounting the knowledge levels of folks that are Democrats. I'm not going to do that because I'm not one.
Because they
But
good folks.
well, I mean, there's good people, and some of them. But
They just
back to
hard.
the
They
whole
just
thing.
hard to see and few in between.
Well, but the thing of the matter is, like I said, it all has to do with that have the intelligence being the ability to reevaluate when faced with factual evidence.
Hmm.
Because if you look at the factual evidence, okay, first off, I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of double digit inflation. I'm
I'm
not a
not either.
fan of start of new wars and and American citizens being killed overseas over things that do not directly have to do with the United States being directly attacked.
Hmm.
Okay, um, I just don't. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I'm not a fan of people. Oh, but I am. I actually have to tell you, I am for the first time in my life thankful, and I didn't realize this, but I am thankful for DEI for the first time in my life
And that's
because if
kind of
it hadn't been for
scary.
DEI, if it hadn't been for DEI, and then they would have actually had people in positions of authority that would have pulled off the assassination correctly instead of the botch job that they did. Because that fellow, that young
Ooh,
boy
that's
had,
right there. That's a lot of unpacking right there.
It is.
That's,
But
woo.
it's the truth. I mean, again, if they weren't so dadgum incompetent, they would actually pull the thing off. And you just can't, you can't look at this and say, when they pulled the dadgum um, security detail, Secret Service detail away from Trump to
Mm-hmm.
give it to Jill Biden. I mean, my God. No, and of course, the thing about I think we talked about this. Did we talk about this last week about how there's been 6 assassinations and or assassination attempts? Out of them, one of them was a Democrat. All the rest of them were Republicans.
We briefly mentioned it
Right.
before you went on your tangent about, unfortunately, about your rough time at your daughter's wedding.
My rough time at the daughter's wedding. What in the world was rough
Yeah,
about that?
because
Other
it's
than it was
something
hot.
was interfering with going something. You were just grumpy last week.
Well, I mean, the only thing I get upset about is I'm sick to death of people not using their damn heads. I mean, use that stuff between your ears and think for a minute. That's what irritates me. I mean, any rate, but go ahead. That's what I
And
get
it's
upset
still
about.
irritating.
Yeah, because good Lord, we got a bunch of idiots. And I mean, again, now I don't have a problem with an idiot that realizes they're an idiot. I
Hmm.
do have a problem with idiots that think they're smart. That's a problem.
Well, I agree. That is a major problem.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. But yeah, with Kamala, I don't think that there is no way on this planet that anybody
Now,
can possibly
here's
believe
the
that
thing:
that woman will
Joe
get
Biden,
enough votes to be elected president. Period.
Joe Biden shellacked her in the primaries.
She shellacked
So
herself. She kicked. She's the one that shellacked Joe Biden and got him knocked out, but she was not able to raise enough money to make it to the second debate or the third debate.
yeah, but she was that little girl on the back of the bus.
Yeah, she's not even black. her her father was a Jamaican slave owner.
Well, we have Joe Biden who can't put a sentence together, and we have this idiot that puts a sentence together with a hyena cackle in the middle of it that still don't
Oh
make
yeah,
any sense.
the cackle queen.
It's just
Go ahead.
crazy. I just,
No.
I just, ain't there something going on? Ain't they a ghost or a woolly booger? What needs talking about?
Lord, I hope so somewhere. I hope
Oh,
so
God help.
somewhere.
And that, it's just something, and it's something all the time. And then I heard something today, somebody talking about, well, Donald Trump talked about Ukraine messing with CrowdStrike in 2019. And I'm sitting here thinking, Ukraine has absolutely nothing to do with
With
what
CrowdStrike.
happened with this CrowdStrike thing that just happened. And it's like people just, they hear what they want to hear and they believe what somebody else tells them, and they don't take the opportunity or the time to look at it for themselves to see whether it actually holds water or not.
Well, that's kind of the point. Again, I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, there's a lot of cases where where I am admittedly not. But
Hmm.
I do take the time. I do take the time to evaluate the facts to the best of my ability and see which ones make sense.
Right, like you're
You know,
supposed to.
well, and that's one of the things, again, it's like that's one of the things they drill into you in aviation. When you're looking at stuff, you have to look at the calculations and everything, and you have to ask yourself, does that make sense?
Right.
And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't make sense, because again, you have to interpolate, okay? You know about like slide rules, okay?
Yeah,
So,
I do ciphering and figuring every day.
well, but if you use a slide rule, the thing about a slide rule is a logarithmic scale. Okay. So
And a
that,
lot of times you can extend it really long and whack somebody at a greater distance.
well, that's true. But you take that, you look at it and that number might be 0.12, or it might be 1.2, or it might be
Hmm
120, or it might be 101,200,000. But it all depends on what you're calculating. So you have to look at it and see, does that make sense? And, so again, when the news media tells you that the assassination attempt was staged, okay? Now, first thing you need to do, anybody that would say that has obviously never fired a firearm in their life, okay? Because yes, 150 yards is a chip shot for a trained marksman, okay? But that
mm
trained marksman is not going to be able to control that shot within millimeters, not a 20-year-old kid, okay, to be able to just graze the ear of Trump. And of course, he did kill several people.
It did.
Well, I know of at least one. He killed one, and I know that several others were injured.
Hmm
So, it's, it's just absurd on its face. So you have to throw that out. It was not a staged. Well, I won't say it wasn't staged by the CIA and the Secret Service and the deep state. I won't say that. I think there's a fair amount of evidence that there was definitely somebody behind this other than a 20-year-old kid who, had issues. Um, but anyway, so that's one. Okay. And you
hmm
got people like Joy Reid spouting that kind of nonsense while at the same time claiming that everything that comes out of a conservative person's mouth is a conspiracy theory. So, and I mean, you look back, okay, so they're telling you that you got that the economy's doing great, it's booming. Well, we got double digit inflation and
Hey,
a carton
it
of
is
eggs costs $5.
it is booming, because when I buy groceries, what used to cost me 70, I have to give Walmart 400.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not good. All right. So it's probably booming for the rich, wealthy elitists, but it
Hmm
ain't booming for us. And
Right.
so that's one. Okay. So then of course we've got, the Steele dossier and Russia. Those were lies, and that was proven. Okay. The Shampeachment, that was a lie, and that was proven to be a lie.
hmm
The Covington Catholic schoolboy kids was a lie. That was proven to be a lie.
Right.
Jussie Smollett, Bubba Wallace, and on and
There.
on and
Yeah.
on. So how in the bloody world can you sit there with a straight face and think that the mainstream media is going to do anything but lie to you
Well,
for
and I
their
mean,
own
that
ends?
brings up another point that I noticed over this weekend and the last few days. Um, I was going through various news outlets, and well, I landed on Fox News, and I'm looking at it, and this is the day of the Microsoft outage
Uh-huh.
when CrowdStrike, the update, caused Windows to blue screen.
Yeah.
From that day through today,
hmm
that story has never been on the front page of Fox News. It's all Donald Trump and convention and
hmm
all of that.
Well, yeah.
And you're not reporting the news. You're doing the people a disservice, because Fox News is just as guilty as the other ones by
Oh,
stirring the
absolutely.
pot and keeping everything at a fever pitch to where everything's about to blow up and blow over. Of course, I am glad they finally gave Bobby Kennedy Secret Service protection.
Well, good Lord, Bobby
But
Kennedy
there
needed a lot
is,
more than Jill Biden, for goodness
right,
sakes. He's
exactly,
not a
and
candidate.
there is something that's happened that has really caused me to start questioning the way that we believe things.
All right. Hit me.
And recently Richard Simmons passed away,
Yes, he did.
and bless his heart, he was funny, sweating with the oldies. I still love listening to that music, watching them fat people sweat. But it's kind of made me rethink how I evaluate things, because the fact that Keith Richards has outlived Richard Simmons just goes to prove that that whole healthy eating and exercise thing is a crock.
Well, okay. I don't know how to respond to that, but it is kind of amazing that Keith Richards is still kicking and going strong.
I'm beginning to think he's like Tom Bombadil in the Lord of the Rings.
Tom Bombadillo. What about him? Talk to me.
I like Tom. Well, I like Tom Bombadil. He was my favorite character. He's actually going to be in the Rings of Power in this second season, they said. Of course, I
Well,
didn't finish watching the first season because it didn't follow what Tolkien wrote, and I said,
yeah.
I ain't watching this garbage. I
Yeah.
did watch the final episode of The Alkalite,
Okay. How was it? I
and
didn't watch any of it.
well, I don't want to give spoilers and stuff, but and I'm trying to be open-minded to it and trying to see, telling them that they're telling a new story, right?
Okay.
And this is supposedly takes place like 100 years before A New Hope, or before Phantom Menace, excuse me.
Okay.
So this is back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, there's a Jedi Master in there that was one of the Jedi Masters in the Phantom Menace that was not supposed to even be born at that time, but yet he makes an appearance in this show. It's just they kind of took exactly what they did with the thoughts behind Anakin Skywalker,
Uh-huh.
to where the Force created supposedly Anakin Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
But they kind of said, oh, well, he wasn't really the chosen one because it happened 100 years ago. But instead of creating one, they created two. But they aren't two separate people. They're other halves of the same
Yeah.
person.
Right. They
And at
were
the
a
beginning, the
diode
one,
or whatever it was.
right. And at the beginning,
Dyad.
the one is trying to hunt down and kill the Jedi that killed her mom, or her creator, which she saw as her mom, and they were witches and stuff. And you get that, and then it's the same actress playing both parts. And then you got the other one who, toward the end, doesn't realize the truth, and then she gets told the truth, and then all of a sudden she turns to the dark side and believe. I will say this: the actual bleeding of a crystal, to where the way it showed it when she did it in that series, was actually kind of interesting. However, according to Star Wars canon, it don't just happen like that. It takes time, and they did it in like 45 seconds.
Hmm. Well,
But they did actually introduce a glimpse of a character that I think they tried to haphazardly cram a bunch of stuff in this to set it up, because I think the main villain in this is Darth Plagueis, who is the Darth Plagueis the Wise, who is the one they believe created Anakin Skywalker. But he is also the one that took Darth Sidious as his Padawan, who eventually became Emperor Palpatine.
Hmm.
Just some of that stuff.
Yeah, and
when you're about half a bottle into Paul Roger, that stuff that you watch, it just hits on a deeper level.
well, the problem that I have is that they and this is a problem I always have with Disney, is they don't respect their own canon.
Right.
And it's one of those things. I understand they made this stuff up so they can do whatever they want to with it, but they just kind of.
Well, it's like they didn't make it up. George Lucas made it up, but they're not even holding true to the guidelines and the bumper rails he put in place.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. I mean, again, it's one of those. It's like I was watching. I can't remember what movie it was, but again, it was a typical movie where, oh gosh, now I remember. Yeah, it was Pacific Rim. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, Pacific Rim, they go in there, and of course, the kaiju come in, and they whoop up on 3 of the Jaegers. I mean,
Yeah.
two class 4 kaijus go out there and they whoop up 3 of the Jaegers.
Hmm.
All right, and wipe out 2 of them. They're about to wipe out. Now they did use an EMP, so that was unexpected, and that did shut down the electrical systems on the Jaeger. But 2 of these class 4s take out a significant number of the Jaegers, and then Gypsy Avenger, of course, goes in there and wipes out the one at great
Hmm.
cost to, the city of Tokyo or Hong Kong or wherever they were. And then takes out the second one. But then at the end of it, they go down there, and 2 of them, Gypsy gets her leg and her arm ripped off by one of the class 4s. And then they and then proceeds, the class 5 comes through and they blow it up with a nuclear warhead, which I assume takes out the class 4, but it doesn't
Hmm.
kill the class 5. And then all Gypsy has to do is just hold on to him with a bear hug and shoot him. Well, if it was that easy to kill the darn things, why don't you just run up and grab them, give them a bear hug, and blast them? I
Right.
mean, it it doesn't fit with any. I mean, of course, I was going to say it doesn't fit with any sort of reality, and none of it's reality. But it just, you kind of want things to hold true to themselves. If
Hmm.
they're that tough to kill, then they should always be that tough to kill. But it's lazy writing. It's what it is.
Well, and I mean that's all it is. It's all it has been since probably the '90s. They
Oh yeah.
really haven't made anything original since the mid to late '80s.
Well, they can't because all of the legal
They're afraid they're going
manipulations.
to offend somebody.
Nope, it was all the legal manipulations that Disney did so that they wouldn't lose all of their profit off of Mickey Mouse. So they
Hmm.
changed all the copyright laws, and there wasn't too terrible much originality going on even before that. But Mickey Mouse was actually stolen. uh, Disney stole that character. I can't remember who the character was he stole it from, but he actually stole Mickey Mouse when he created Mickey Mouse,
Hmm.
from what I understand. So, but again, we're somewhat creative as human beings, but we're not all that creative. So there's only a certain amount of originality that you can have, and if you can't utilize what
Hmm.
has come before you to create something. Hamlet, for goodness sake, was Shakespeare ripped off Hamlet from somebody else's play, for goodness sake.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I mean, that goes back to there is no more original thought. It's like Hallmark Christmas movies. They have 3
Oh,
movies.
yeah.
They just change the settings and the actors, and it's a different movie, but it's essentially the same story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, I got an
Absolutely.
important question. Are you going into your office tomorrow?
I hadn't really decided yet. Why is that?
Well, tomorrow, which will be today when you're listening to us, because this will be published in the morning, is International Slap a Coworker Day. And I decided that I'm going to go to the office and I'm just going to bless all my coworkers. And instead of just slapping one, I'm going to just slap all of them.
That is a very bad idea to have that day. Slap a coworker day. Not a good idea. Oh, my goodness gracious. Never have I heard such.
I did read an article I think it was this evening, that Joe Manchin is considering rejoining the Democratic Party to challenge Kamala Harris for the nomination for president at the convention.
Well, you know, Joe Manchin, the problem I have with Joe Manchin is I used to have a lot of faith in him until the Biden administration. And when the Biden administration came in, he really kind of sort of started falling in line with the rest of the Democrats, creating this hellscape
Well,
of the
yeah, and
USSA that we
and I
live in.
think he saw the writing on the wall, though, that his days as a senator from the very red state of West Virginia was numbered.
Oh yeah, well that's why he pulled out. Now I understand that, but I mean, again, I've got a lot of
Lord have mercy.
friends.
I'm just going to have to stop you right there because
Well,
something just went through my mind when you
oh
said that,
Lord, what's that?
and I'm like, I just can't say it because we ain't got enough gas in the General Lee.
Well, you ought not have brought it up if you're not going. You ought not bait the
Damn,
hook
brother,
if
I
you're
don't
not
believe
going
I'd
to
have
cast
told
it.
that.
Had told
No,
what?
what I was getting ready to say.
Oh, well, you ought not bait the hook if you're not going to catch it, if you're not going to cast it. But
Well, I'll just leave it as food for thought for our listeners, and they can kind of hypothesize what they thought I was going to say.
all right, whatever. But the point is, I got a lot of friends that are breathing a sigh of relief. Okay, but I keep saying this is not over. If you don't think that there is a deep state permanent bureaucracy that is the useful idiots of the wealthy that actually own the United States and run it the way they want to, then you are mistaken. And they're not going to turn loose of their power. They are not going to turn loose of their power without a tremendous fight. And, and it ain't even October yet. We haven't even gotten to the October surprise yet. There's always an October surprise on both sides of the coin. So it is not over. And
by
I
no means.
suspect,
It's just beginning.
yeah, I suspect it is going to get far, far, far worse before it gets any better. Now, I told you I was going to tell you a joke.
All right.
This
is gonna, we got just enough time for your joke.
Well, now, so, the statistics that recently came out have shown that 25% of women in the United States are being treated for mental illness of one sort or another. And you know what that means? That means that 75% of them are untreated.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's going to make a few people mad. But, women out there, you can throw the same thing. You can use the same joke towards me.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't like it, all we care is it pissed you off. It don't matter. We don't care.
Okay.
And a lot of people could say, hey, we're still doing this podcast, so we're untreated.
There's a lot of truth to that. I will give you that one.
There is. And with that, that's the snout to the curly tail and everything in between. And we will catch you next week because we gone.
Y'all have a good night.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuckers. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND. Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND. Get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.